Guys, I am back with another video. Today I'm going to show you like a very basic sewing skill. Something that we'll use every day in life and will prevent you from having to go to the dry cleaner to get it altered. So that will save you some money as well. Today we're going to sew a button onto, a top. You can obviously any other garment, but today we're going to do a top, and I'm going to show you the different ways that you can sew on a button by hand or by sewing machine. And I'm also going to show you two different types of buttons and how those can be sewn. So let me adjust the camera so that you can see on my table, and I will show you how to do that. Okay guys, this is the top that I have to sew the button onto, and this is the button that I have to replace on this top. As you can see, this is just a circle button with 4 holes. You can also have a button that has 2 holes. You might more find these on men's shirts, but it can also have 4 holes as well on men's shirts. And then there is a button that has, I guess you can say, like a little ring, but it's actually called a shank. So this is a button with a shank. So it's not flat like these. These are flat on both sides. And this one has a shank. When I'm showing you how to do this button, I will show you how to add a shank with the thread when you're sewing the button on, in order to give your button the room it needs when you're buttoning your garment close. So those are the 2 types of buttons, the one without a shank and the one with a shank, and 2 holes or 4 holes. Obviously the one with a shank only has the 1 hole right here. The other things you would need to sew a button on is your needles. So this I got at a sewing store, and this is a hand sewing needle. It's not your sewing machine needle. You would also need scissors, whether big or small, and a thimble would be helpful. This you place on your finger to push your needle through the garment. That way the needle doesn't poke through your finger. So there are metal thimbles and there are plastic thimbles. I like the plastic one personally because when I put the thimble on, this metal ridge doesn't hurt my finger. So the plastic is my favorite. And finally, thread. You're gonna need thread, obviously. So let's get started with threading the needle. Okay, to thread your needle, you need to, I don't know if you can see this. Anyway, you need to pull the thread, and what I like to do, I like to double the thread before I cut it. And actually, I like to make four strands of thread. So first I double it to the length that I want. Now you don't want it too long because it can get knotted very easily. So this is 2 strands of thread here, and let me measure this. This is about 28 inches long. So 28 times 2, 56. If you're cutting 1 strand, it was 56, but it's doubled and it is 28 inches long. And now I need to put those 2 strands through the eye of my needle. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And I should show you this really cool gadget that I got. I'll have to move off camera for a second. But now I pushed it through and it has become 4 strands of thread. And that's what I like to do when I'm sewing my button on. It means I don't have to go through the holes of the button over and over. I can do it less times and I have strong thread. But I will also show you this gadget. Let me just go off camera. It is called a needle threader. And let me put this white fabric here. It's this. I wonder if you can see the wire. There is a wire there. And I will show you how to thread the needle using that. So I'm going to pull my thread back out. And you take your needle and you push the wire through the eye of the needle. You push it through like that, and then you put your thread through here. Let me grab the other end. So I push my thread through here, like that, and then I pull this back through my needle. But you make sure you're only pulling through one end. So this end is here, and this end is here, and you just line it up like that. And now your needle is threaded, and you need to tie a slip knot. I think it's a slip knot. I just see a knot. You need to tie a knot at the end of your thread. And you cut off any little excess. Don't cut your knot off. You just cut off any little excess. So now to sew the button on to the garment, if you see these loose threads here, this is where the button came off from, and I'm gonna put it right back in that spot. So what I do is I turn it on the wrong side of the garment. I'm gonna put my thimble on. This is the finger I use to push my needle. So I turn it on the bad side of the fabric, the garment, and I'm gonna push the needle through where that loose thread is. I'm going to take the loose thread out now so that it doesn't stay. And then I'm going to push the needle through the first hole. It doesn't matter which hole it is, any hole. And you can stick the needle in diagonally or across, it doesn't matter. And you push it through, and now you have your first stitch on the button. Now you're in the back again, and now you want to try and feel with the needle where one of these holes is, either this one or that one. So you're just feeling for the hole, and you push it through, and you pull it up, and you push it down through the other one. And now you're in the back again. And you just do that a couple times more. Remember that it's 4 strands of thread, so you don't have to do it a lot. The next thing you could do to make that shank that I told you about behind a flat button is, instead of pushing the thread through directly to the back, you push it through between the button and the fabric, and then you wrap this thread around the button a few times, and it will give it that lift it needs. That way when you button your garment, it has some space to sit flat. Now I'm going to push the needle back up, in, and then now I'm going all the way through to the back. And I'm just going to do it a couple more times, maybe one more time actually. And then I'm just going to knot the thread. So to knot the thread, I just push it through some of the thread that's in the back here. I push the needle through, and then I take this thread and I wrap it around the needle. 1, 2, 3. And then I pull the needle, and that's my knot. You could do it again. 1, 2, 3, and pull. And then you cut your thread. And that's it. Your needle, your needle, your button is on. You have some space here so that the other side, when you button it, sits nice and flat. So let's see. You put that there, and you button your top. And that's it. Sometimes it depends on the button. If you don't wrap the thread around to give it that shank, you would get pulling of your garment. So sometimes the thread shank works. Another way you can do it is, if you don't want to do the thread shank, when you're pushing your needle through to the back, just don't pull it really tight and leave it a little bit loose. Not loose enough for it to look like it's flopping all over, but you know, just loose enough to give you that room for the other side of the garment to fit on it. So this is how you sew on a flat button with a hand needle. And obviously you want to put your needle away. This is my little pin cushion. Isn't she adorable? And you just stick your needle there and you're done. Now I'm going to show you how to do one with the shank, because buttons come like that as well. We're going to do that. We're going to do this one. So I'm going to need more thread, and I'm going to pull this one. I don't need as much as before. I'm going to cut, use my needle threader, push the thread through, and pull it back. And then I double it just like before and put the knots. Cut off the excess thread. Now this one with the shank, let's say, okay, let's get this pencil. Let's say I want the button on that X there. So I just line up the shank there. This is a little bit tricky and it can slip out your hands very easily. What you can do is take a pin and put it where you want it to be and fold your fabric like that and push a pin through your fabric and through the shank. That way it's held in place while you're sewing and it's not slipping and falling out of your hand. So now that it's pinned, I just have to go in and push my needle through. And now that I push it through, I can take the pin out and I pull it like that. And I want to do this maybe 3 or 4 times. 1, 2, I think 3 is good because again, it's 4 strands of fabric. So that's already 12 strands of fabric. And this is what it looks like on the other side. And then you just want to put your needle through the thread and do the same thing as the other button. 1, 2, 3. Wrap it around, pull, and knot. And you could do it one more time just to be safe. 1, 2, 3. Pull and knot. And that's how you put on a button with a shank. You cut your thread, put your needle away, and this is your button with your shank. I personally don't like these buttons. I don't know why, but I just don't. I prefer flat buttons, honestly. So that's how you sew on this button, and I showed you how to sew on the flat button using a hand sewing needle. And now I'm going to show you how to sew on another flat button on a sewing machine. Okay guys, I turned my machine on and I'm holding the camera with my hand, so I hope it doesn't shake too much, but I'm also trying to block the glare from my screen. My room has a lot of natural light, which I love, but right now it's not helping. So on my machine, I have a 770QE. I will link the description to the video that I have on that machine if you want to see the features of my machine. On my machine, there is a buttonhole icon here, and if I hit that icon and just press here, stitch number 60 is 4 buttons. So I will tap that and the screen and everything changes to what I need to sew the buttonhole. So I'm gonna set up my machine, the foot and everything, and then I will show you how to do that. This is the foot. It's foot number 18. This is the foot that's used to sew a button on. This little metal right here, when the thread goes over that a few times, that little metal is what gives it the space that it needs. It's like the shank that I showed you on the hand sewing part of the video. So if you're sewing a button that's flat, this is what I guess you would say replaces the shank, because once it's stitched over that, it will get like a nice little gap going on there, and that will give you enough room for the garment to sit flat when you button it. That way the button won't be as tight to the garment. It will have room. So this is the foot to sew on a button. So I'm gonna put this foot on, and the next thing I need to do, so what I have to do is I have to take this button and put it right there. And before I even press on the foot of my machine, I have to turn the hand wheel and line it up with the hole. Okay, so I'm turning the hand wheel. The hand wheel is the circle knob to the right of your machine, and when I turn that, I see where the needle falls, and I keep turning because now it's going to jump to the other side, hopefully. And there it goes, and I want to make sure it goes into that hole. That's what I want. And once that is where I want it to be, then I start to stitch by pressing the presser foot, and on my machine it stops automatically. So I'm going to push the presser foot, and we will see how that sews. Okay, it's done. And I don't remember if I should press the automatic thread cutter on this one. I'm not sure. And I don't want to take any chances. So I will just cut my thread here. And I am going to pull it out. And then I have to cut the bottom thread. And here's your button, all sewn. And it has the space under here, see? Because of that little silver lever. I don't know if you call it a lever, but a little silver bar. That's what it is. And that will give it the space that it needs for when your garment is actually buttoned all together. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this little video on how to put on buttons, a different way to put on buttons, and I hope it helps you, and I hope it saves you from going to the dry cleaners and getting it done. Until the next video, I will see you later. Bye!